We have had the pleasure of working with multiple teams at Intuit from the US, Israel, Australia, and India. For the past few years, we've worked with Radhika Kannan and Kavita Sangwan on their WiDS Bangalore event at Intuit. Radhika is also the host of the Meet the Speaker session featuring Geeta Manjunath today. For now, please enjoy this wonderful fireside chat with Professor Sanghamitra Bandhyopdhyay from the Indian Statistical Institute.
Now to a candid Q&A with Professor Sanghamitra Bandhyopdhyay. She's the director of Indian Statistical Institute. Not just a great administrator, she's in fact an alumnus of ISI, having done her PhD from there. She later returned to join as a faculty and is currently a doctoral supervisor in the Machine Intelligence Unit. Taking us through the conversation with her will be Srijana Merugu, also an accomplished independent researcher and consultant with over 20 years of experience with machine learning groups at various startups and large companies. Srijana?
Hi, everyone. It's really nice to see you all today. And a big thanks to Radhika and her team for putting up this awesome event. So I'm really honored to introduce Professor Sanghamitra. Radhika just gave a little bit of intro. I wanted to add a little bit more because she's an amazing role model for all of us. Welcome, Professor. It's nice to have you at this session. And I just wanted to add a little more details to what Radhika just shared. Professor Sanghamitra is a very distinguished computer scientist, and she specializes in computational biology. And since August 2015, she's been the director of ISI, which means that she oversees the functioning of all the 5 ISIs, besides several other statistical quality control and operational research units. And she is also one of the only 2 recipients of the prestigious Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize. She's also an Infosys laureate, and her research interests are primarily in the areas of evolutionary computation, pattern recognition, machine learning, and bioinformatics. Currently, Professor Sanghamitra also serves on the Prime Minister's Science, Technology, and Innovation Advisory Council. So welcome again, Professor. We are all so excited to hear from you. I spoke a little bit the other day and I wanted to really chat more.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Am I audible? And you can see me? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
To me,
audible
yes.
And can.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to start out, Professor, since most of the audience is young career women, we really would like to hear a little bit about your childhood upbringing and the formative years that led you to pursue a career in science. So could you share something about how you got it?
Certainly. So about the childhood upbringing, which led me to science, it's only because there were 2 subjects I was really good at. One was mathematics and the other was physics. And besides the languages, of course, I like languages, English, and I studied Hindi in my school days because I was actually, although I'm from Kolkata, but because my father had a transferable job, so I was moving around the country with him, with our family. We were moving with him. So, so physics and mathematics were the only 2 subjects I could do, and chemistry or even biology, or for that matter, history, geography, I was terrified of those subjects. I thought that they required a lot of memorizing, and I was very bad at memorizing. Physics, mathematics, it was more logical. I didn't have to memorize that much. It one step followed from the other. So, well, nothing specially pushed me to science, except that those were the 2 subjects I could do, and therefore I pursued it, and that this is where I have landed now. So that is how I'm
very humble about your accomplishments. I mean, you are I have seen your record. You were always the topper during your school and entire academic year career. So I do want to know a little bit about.
I must tell you, I was never overly ambitious. It was only one idea, one philosophy that okay, whatever I do, I'll try to do my best. So that is so I never really planned for the future. Whatever happened, one after the other, it happened. But of course, that strive for excellence was there, and I did whatever I could to the best of my ability. So I will not have that complaint against me that I didn't try hard enough. I did try, and then whatever happened.
Yeah. And so if I may ask, now that you mentioned that, you took embarked on this journey, so what has been the driving force behind your professional journey as a scholar in science, as a professor, the leader of this organization? What keeps you going? Any nice anecdotes that you would like to share on the turning points in your career?
Well, I would say, I mean, it's not like there was a particular turning point or something which I mean, I wanted to do something else, but I turned to science. No, it was a natural progression. Also, from a very young age, uh, maybe there was a little bit of mindset difference. In fact, when I would talk to my friends when I was just maybe in class 5, 6, 7, 8, something like that, with the girls, I mean, the general topic of discussion would be usually would turn to husbands, so future husbands, just like young girls. I never really had much interest in those discussions. And I always would think to myself that many of my friends, girls, all the girls, they would think of how rich their husbands would be and what cars they will buy, etc. But that always made me wonder. They never thought how rich they themselves would be, and what car they will buy for themselves. So that was not their discussions. How much their husbands would get for them. So
Right.
there was this mindset difference somewhere. Um, and also my mother in particular was an important, my mother and my grandmother, they were important forces in my life. In this, I remember one small incident when I was in school, and I was visiting our uncle's home in Chittaranjan, and this is a big home with lots of with a garden with trees, and I wanted to climb a tree, but I had never climbed a tree before, so I was not getting that confidence. And my mother said, "Well, go ahead, climb it. I'm there. I'll stand underneath the tree. If you fall,
Oh,
I'll catch you."
that's amazing
So that
support.
was
Yeah.
a good. I remember it till this day that if you fall, I'm there. But go
Yeah.
on. So that was one of the driving forces which have, at different points of time, it has come back to me. This particular word. My mother, of course, is no more, but those things remain. I mean, she always forced, or not forced, but encouraged me to do things which, in those times, people wouldn't encourage their daughters to do.
That's important. Yeah, so it's almost like she gave you wings to fly because she would be there to catch you in case there's a.
I think a small incidents creates that mindset. So
Mhm.
that was important, and I never really lacked confidence in the sense that one part was I was never bothered what people thought about me.
Mhm.
So it was important to be clear in my own conscience, and always in my school, it was not that I always topped. That is not true. I mean, that's not correct. I did not top in my school, but I was always within the first 5 or so. So yeah, so gradually this leadership role that I have come to, that also happened. It's not that again I planned for it. It happened, and once I took over as the director of the institute, in fact, my academics took a little bit of a backseat because it was not possible to do administration as well as academics with the equal force. Even a woman has 24 hours a day, no more than that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but then when I took over academics, I tried administration. I did try to focus quite a bit on that and tried my best. That is what I have always been trying to
I
do.
mean, I think, looking at your publication record and all that you've accomplished, it's really amazing to see what can actually be done if someone puts their mind to it. Right? So, and I wanted to add here that even though Professor Sanghamitra is director of this huge organization, she's also the author of many influential publications in high impact research areas. So, in fact, Professor has a high H index of 53 and huge number of citations. So maybe could we just go back a little bit to your research career and how you as a computer science scholar ended up working on problems in a very different domain, which is computational biology and bioinformatics. So how did that transition come about?
That's right. As I told you, I mean, during my school days, I was terrified of biology. But
Mm-hmm.
it so happened that when I did I was doing research in something called genetic algorithms and pattern recognition. I was designing classifiers and clustering methods in particular using genetic algorithms and multi-objective optimization. So these are techniques for optimization, search and optimization. And then one student came and joined me. He was a biology student who wanted to do some computational stuff in biology. So that was around 2003-4 when he joined me, and he convinced me that there were many problems in biology where the methods which we developed in our laboratory could be very well applied. And in particular, he got me interested in a small molecule called microRNA, which at that time, not many people were really working on that. It was about more than 15, 18, 20 years back. That this microRNA, people were just understanding the importance of this small molecule. In fact, this small molecule later on has been established to play a major role in many diseases, including a lot of almost all types of cancer. So that is when we got interested. I also got interested because there were classification as well as clustering problems in biology, and the methods that we had developed, it so happened that they were quite nicely applicable in those areas. And then what happened is once you start doing the biology, that student of mine, he taught me biology again, re-taught me whatever I had forgotten.
Nice.
And I taught him computer science. I taught him the nitty-gritties of data structure, of programming and other things. And it was quite difficult. Remembering the terms in biology, which I had forgotten very conveniently, as soon as my 10th examination was over, I said goodbye. But he was also patient. Every day he would teach me something. Next day I would forget. I'd go back to him and he would reteach me that. So that happened. But now more or less I am confident of whatever I know. So that is how it happened. I mean, my landing up in biology was primarily driven by a student of mine.
Oh, wow. That's really nice to hear. And I mean, it's actually amazing how these interdisciplinary research efforts come about, really.
Yes.
So, could you share a little bit on what you think is, are the key elements of impactful research, and what would your advice to young researchers be? Because, like you said, you started on a different journey, something that was not in a domain that you were comfortable with. So what
Yes.
would you advise us to be open to, or how do we figure out a good problem from not so good problem?
Well, first of all, of course, when somebody is starting out on research, one thing is huge amount of reading has to be done. One has to read an immense amount of literature and textbooks to know the basics correct. The basics have to be correct. If the basics are wrong, then you can just do some epsilon here and there. But a lot of reading is required in the initial stages, and it is, if you, after you've developed a certain level of expertise, then read the best journals in that area, meaning the latest work that is coming out in the best journals or the best conferences. In computer science, there are quite a few very good conferences and which publish the latest work. So starting in those, I'm starting with those papers, and then going further with that, a good problem and a bad, which is certain problems where too many people have already worked. So it would be better to avoid or unless you're very sure of what you want to do, because if there's too much of traffic in a particular area, then it's too much of competition. You really cannot do much. So for a new researcher, it's good to be in the cutting edge, an area where currently a lot of work is doing. But because right now, if somebody starts with very conventional, let's say image processing or something which has been done thousands of times, so it is very difficult to contribute anything new there. And so that is how picking up that area is necessary. And then it's hard work. Research is a lot of hard work. Very often people think that, okay, coming into academics or into research job is, little life. You can enjoy life. Well, you can, but then the work also suffers. You have to be really, really hardworking. I have seen some of my students, like day in, day out, they are in the laboratory. They have been. I mean, and that gives results. That gives results.
So would you like to add something about interdisciplinary research and how
Interdisciplinary
most of
research.
us? Mhm.
Yes, certainly. These days, you see, the boundaries of subjects have anyway become very fuzzy. So when one subject tends and the other comes in, for example, biology, a lot of
Right.
computation has to go into that, a lot of chemistry has to go into that, a lot of physics, a lot of mathematics. All these modeling is in this COVID situation itself, you can see a lot of modeling going on, but of course, it's very challenging because there are so many factors which are difficult to model. So sometimes that, therefore, the models you will also see in the
Right.
papers something that the models are either under predicting or over predicting by a large margin. That's because there are so many variables here which are difficult to model. But that's where a lot of mathematics, a lot of statistics. So it is very important to know once your own subject very well, but also pick up a little bit of other subjects, one or two, not many. One cannot be expert in too many things, but to collaborate, but to be very open to collaboration, learn to talk to the other person with a different expertise, because that is what we have found to be very difficult actually. So I come from a computer science background. When I started talking to the biologists, I mean, it was very difficult to understand each other. What a biologist is looking for, and what, from a computer scientist point of view, I am unable to express that. Okay, this can be done, this cannot be done. If you give me this data, this thing cannot be done. The biologist would say, "Arey bhai, kyun nahi hoga? Why not?" Ah, so, but after one has to be at it. One cannot just
Right.
let it go. Just
Right.
because okay, once or twice you failed to really collaborate, just give up. No, giving up is not the option. And now it has become easier. Now it has become easier, but still in India, I will say that this building up very strong collaborative groups has proved to be a bit of a challenge. It has been easier to collaborate abroad, but in India, uh, somehow, somewhere, maybe the system is a little more closed, or a person who is doing a particular thing uh, thinks that he or she is also able to do the other things as well. For example, uh, the algorithm development part, maybe a person who's doing biology thinks that, okay, I can also do that. Why should I need a computer scientist for that? Well, no, that is not the correct attitude to have, because what you can do, a computer scientist who has that training will do it much better. So why not share that? So sharing and opening up the system. We often do not want to share data, for example. That's a major problem actually in this country, that whoever is doing research, at the end of the day, you will see that the research is on a data which is coming from outside the country. Even for biologists, when we do the free data, we are taking from the US repositories, European repositories, even Chinese repositories. In India, there is now a move at the highest level to create a database, at least in biology. That is happening. So awareness has come up that we need our own data. Okay,
Right.
but we are very bad in that. We have been rather a little poor in that, keeping data, making data available for other researchers. You don't have to worry what another person will do with that data. If you've generated that data, okay, you do some work on your own, and then let it be out in the open. Whatever a student, let every student look at that data, whoever is interested. Let them do whatever they want. But that openness is very much important.
No, and I completely agree. I mean, there's nothing like data standardization and having enabling access of to data for researchers, right? Because that can actually open up a lot of efforts. So I just want to ask you also on because now you are also in a very a good role to influence some of these collaborative efforts as a director of ISI, and I can imagine it being a completely different ball game from being a researcher as well, right? So could you share a little bit about how your work has changed, how you yourself have transitioned from being primarily a researcher to being both a researcher and a leader who's like driving these collaborative efforts and some of these prerequisites, like you called out the open data moment, right? Like how do you enable these things for the country and in your organization?
Yes,
And
yes.
maybe if you could also give a pointers to women on what we would have to cultivate within ourselves to transition into these roles. That would be great.
Right. So after transitioning to this role of the director of the institute, I mean, what has happened is I have a little more say in making the policies. Also at the national level, I'm a member of several very high level committees. So that way, at least some of my thoughts I can express to people who matter, who may be able to bring about a change. And there's a lot of discussion going on everywhere. In fact, I see there are several points on which there's very high level awareness. One is everybody understands now the importance of having women everywhere. And it is also a point that is being made that it's not a charity that people are doing by, thinking of having women. It makes economic sense to have women in different places because of the difference in the way of thinking and the difference in the approach, and no lack of quality. So all from all directions, it's so that is one thing. The other thing is about this having data about our education system. There is an awareness that it's not really in a proper shape. We have to do something about it. And there, being in these leadership roles, I am able to express some of my feelings. I'm also in the group which is deliberating on the science, technology, and innovation policy of the country. Okay, I mean, it's a big group, but we do, at least we can express the feelings, and there are people to listen to that. In the institute also, this industry collaboration, etc., which we have not been looking at too much, those things have increased now. So being at this level, at this role, in these roles, one can say certain things which may make a difference. Is more likely to make a difference. The downside is, of course, in terms of research, my own personal research has suffered. The greatest sufferers probably are my students, my PhD students, who hardly get enough time from me these days. But that also has a down. I mean, although it's like a downside, it may appear to be a downside, but it also has its upside in the sense that my students are now becoming more and more independent, which is what is important. So okay, how you look at it, a glass half full or a glass half empty, how you look at it, that is what matters. But yes, research, if being an administrator, research has suffered. My own personal research, I am not able to devote as much time as I would have really liked to. But then at different stages of life, you do have to play different roles.
Right. And we need leaders, we need role models like you in these roles for us also to look up to and, they learn from. So I think it's also very important otherwise.
Yes, these days, but I would say that these days there are enough role models. If you care to look, there are enough role models. I mean, if I look at how even the person the lady who works in my home, how she earns and how she's not struggles, but I mean, it's not about struggling, but about, that, okay, working is a natural thing. So that has come into many women, which was not there even, let's say, when I was in school 30 years back, maybe a little more. I was in school 35, 40 years back. So at that time, from then, now there's a mindset difference. In fact, that you see, when a son is brought up, it is but natural an expectation that the son will work. So what else? I mean, you see, that is the thing. Working is like breathing. So that attitude has come into many, many girls nowadays. So that a girl will work is but natural. What else will she do other without working? So that's a mindset difference, a societal difference, which is, of course, still we have a lot of way to go. There's a lot to be desired yet, but a remarkable change. Everywhere you will find role models. Even at your home, if you care to look, you will find role models there.
That's really true. I mean, that's actually a very valuable thing to share too. And going back to your role on the PM Science and Science Technology and Advisory Council, could you share a little bit about these critical missions that you think that research and technology community should get into, in particular the data science community? And if you also alluded to this disconnect between industry and research and government efforts. So is there some way to address it? And are there any ongoing efforts? Because primarily most of us are actually in industry research with possibly aspirations to contribute to society.
Right. About the mission mode projects, which are major projects which are being envisaged, of course, there is this quantum computing initiative, cyber-physical systems, where there's a national focus, healthcare, and in particular, artificial intelligence, machine learning in healthcare. That has a great focus these days. Also, as I said, quantum computing, yeah, underwater exploration, e-mobility. That is also a very important focus of the country, e-mobility, because we have to go towards alternate sources of energy, etc. So these are the different focus points in the PMSTAC. A lot of deliberations have, and those have also come up as national missions. For example, cyber physical system is already in place now. So these are the areas where one could get into. And about the disconnect, yes, there is a large amount of disconnect between the academia, industry, and also government. And that primarily is because we tend to be in silos with not easy mobility between these three areas. So if, for example, it was very easy for, let's say, a professor to go and work in it's not impossible, but it's not also facilitated. A professor would be for a year in some companies in an industry. The industry person would spend 1 year in academia in an institute, like whichever hours, or any institute. From the industry, they go and spend some internships in the government, for example, just to see how the government works. 3 months, 6 months, I don't know, whatever is a good duration. But this mobility is not facilitated by the policies which we have. Today, it's also even, I mean, now it's opening up a little, but even a student who's taking credits from one institute and another institute and trying to get a degree, and there are a lot of bars there. It's not easy. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not easy. It has to be facilitated. In fact, in ISI, for example, we have a 3-institute diploma course, which is called Postgraduate Diploma in Business Analytics. We run it, ISI runs it with IIT Kharagpur and IIM Calcutta. And that is very popular. That's very well-known course now, program now. And you see 3 top institutes of Eastern India. They've got together to run this program. Running it is not easy because each institute has its own policies, own rules, regulations, procedures. It's quite a challenge. But unless we think of models like this, where the students actually, what happens, it's a 2-year course. The students first semester, they come and study in ISI. Second semester, they move to IIT Kharagpur. Third semester, they move to IIM Calcutta. And the 4th semester is all dissertation or internships or doing in industry or wherever they want to. So this mobility of the students, they are seeing 3 top institutes. That opens up, different mindsets. The vision opens up. So I think this sort of mobility, but still this is within 3 academic institutions. If there is an industry which participates, so the seamless movement is very important. In that way, what happens is the respect for the other people, the other arms of what should I say, either the government or the industry. You also grow that respect because you've seen them work.
Yes.
So that is important.
And I think that familiarity, like you said, it's tough to work with biologists if you don't know about them, right? Like how they think. So I think that's very important to cultivate. I think we are nearly out of time, but I do want to get to this. So I just want to say most of us are women in technology, and we often have to deal with this professional personal balance. So could you please share a little bit about your family, your husband, Professor Ujjwal Malik, and how you manage to navigate so many roles, and also any parting thoughts you have for all of us on, how we approach life, research, entrepreneurship, whatever it is.
See, actually, for women, one challenge for many women is that often their families, well, they may not come in the way, but they are not too supportive also. Okay, you do your job, that sort of thing. And many families do come in the way. So it's easier to fight an outside enemy. It's very difficult to fight your own. So that is where many women give up. Okay. What my experience has been, well, I have been fortunate that in that sense, I was, in fact, I was always encouraged to do whatever I like to, both by my parents, by my husband. In fact, my husband was always very encouraging and always, put me ahead in everything. Whatever he could, he helped also. So, and my son is also now, he's resigned to the fact that he's not going to get his mother too much. Anyways, from right from his birth, he's come to accept that. So, and a woman always has 24 hours, no more. So, if you give more time to your work, your family life is going to suffer. One has to accept that. You cannot have it both ways. One has to accept that and not have that guilt feeling, many women suffer from a guilt feeling. I'm not a good mother. Well, I sometimes do, but it doesn't get the better of me. Well, I have tried. I tried as much as possible, but so be it. So this guilt feeling doesn't work. It's good to be happy and do whatever you like to do. So that is very important. And also family, if you put your foot down, the family also is fearful of losing you. So it's not that you only fear of losing your family. Family also, if you put your foot down, family will also see the logic and will come your way. So that is one thing. But these days, I think there's a change. In fact, even the advertisements nowadays, I see one advertisement where the husband the wife is a doctor and makes Horlicks or something. So these advertisements also carry a lot of mindset. They do bring in a mindset difference. So I think more and more the men who are here, who've joined, I think it should be taken very naturally that the wife or the mother or whoever will work, and that should be very natural. And help should come from the family also. Without help from the family, it's very difficult.
Right, and really great word, because honestly, like, all of us have so much in us to give. We have our own skill set, our own talent, and it would not be fair to not be able to realize that potential. So, yeah,
Yes.
it was really great talking to you. Thanks so much, Professor. It's been a real pleasure. I think
Thank you, and my pleasure.
out of time.
My
Yeah,
pleasure being here.
yeah. Thank you so much. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Srijana,
Thank
for
you.
steering that conversation. And
Thank you,
Professor,
Sujana.
thank you as well. We are obliged to you for sharing your experiences and advice. We all
Thank
have
you,
a lot
Radhika.
to learn from your illustrious journey. Thank you again.